Alright guys, welcome back to another MCreator procedure tutorial. So today what we're going to do is we're going to be covering the print block, something that we'll be using a lot in this series for debugging and seeing how things are actually being printed out. And this block is mainly designed for debugging and troubleshooting your script. So it's something that most languages have support for. There will be some sort of print function in code, and basically what this does, it just allows you to print things out to console to see what's going on with your script, and it's a really handy tool for things. It's been in the program for pretty much, I think, the beginning, so it's not going to go anywhere, and it's always going to be available for you. You can find this under the text tab, and then it's right down below, it's called print, and when you place this on your conditions, stuff like that, it will actually not have any dependencies, so you can use this in any procedure trigger that you want, and it will always work. So we're going to just print out a simple string, which is this block right here, and we're going to just print out a simple value called 1, and we're going to go ahead and save this procedure and then pop in game, and then we're going to keep an eye on console. If we look at the console, we have a whole bunch of text. Now if you don't know how to get to the console, most likely you'll be on workspace. If you go over to the right hand side, right under the stop button, there is the console, and you can clear the console by clicking on the red X, and that will get rid of everything on that screen. That's going to be really important when we do our tests, so make sure to do that first. Once you're finished with that, go back into game, and then you can actually go ahead and right click on something. I have it through the right click procedure through the procedure that we were working on, so you can see that it has two numbers that were printed out. Both are 1 and 1. One of those are for client side, and the other one below that is server side. We will be getting to that in a future tutorial, but right now just remember that this is just really actually one value. It's just repeating it twice for both the client and the game itself. We know that this is working correctly. So when you're working with print blocks, normally what you're going to see is things happening in the order that they are executing in. I want to also take this particular video to explain how procedures will execute their files inside of the procedure system itself. So this is actually really easy to demonstrate using the print block, because we can demonstrate this by printing out 3 values like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to see in console that it's going to print out 1, 2, and then 3. So let's go ahead and pop back into the console in game, and then we'll run this as a test. So again, we're on console, and we're going to clear the console by clicking the red X, and then we have a complete easy way to see what's going on. And we're going to go back to game, and we're going to right click on this block, and we can see that in fact it's printing out in the order that it's printing the numbers in same as the script itself. So if we look in here, it goes 1, 2, 3, and then if we go over to our console, we can see it goes 1, 2, 3 for the client side, and then 1, 2, 3 for the server side. So it's exactly the same order as what we've done in the procedure. So let's take this one more step forward, and I want to demonstrate what it's going to look like when we're actually executing the procedures for conditions and stuff using an if statement. Now we haven't covered an if statement yet. We will be getting to that in the near future. There is some stuff that we need to cover before then, mainly the not block, and we'll be covering probably conditions in a little bit, but we'll go ahead and check the condition that we have. We'll stop the game first, and let's go ahead and just create a quick condition where we're going to have multiple scenario where things might happen. So for example, we can use strings, and we can just test if the value is the exact same as something else. Now when you're working with conditions like this, it's exactly the same format as what you had with the print blocks. It's always going to read from left to right and from top to bottom. So in this case, you can actually change the order of how things are displayed. This has no actual effect on how the script is run. It's just visually displaying it differently in the editor itself for the procedure. Now this condition, we'll set this to 2, and then we're going to test if maybe 2 equals 2. Now this is not an actual number. It is a string string format, so it's just going to compare the same character as the same character. 1 is not the same character as 2, so that's going to basically return false because it's not the same character. Then we're testing if the other condition over here is the same as the same character, so if 2 character is the same as 2 character, and in this case it will return true. Basically what will happen when you're working with conditions and stuff like that is, as long as there's one condition true, whatever's in here will basically go ahead and return something. So we'll probably dive into that a little bit further in the series more in depth. Don't worry about that part, we'll be getting to that more in depth in the future video. What we will be doing though is testing how this will run. Now if you had things in external input, it would basically still run the same thing. It's first going to test for the first line up here, and then it's going to test for the bottom line. This is going to run first, it's going to check to see if that's true or not. It's obviously going to return false because that's not true, and then it's going to go ahead and run test if the second condition is correct. In this case, the second condition is correct. If it's like 3 or whatever, then it would normally pass the condition and not do anything, but in this case it is. And if we go ahead and do this other version, which is inline, then you can see that it's still going to be from left to right in the reading of the condition. So in this case it's going to run this one, and then it's going to run that one. So it's no difference, it's just a visual difference for when you're compacting your code a little bit more. There's really no difference how the procedure is going to run, whether it's in that state or the other state. So we'll go ahead and run this, and then we'll see if the output of the print is still in the same order. All right, so we have the game up down here, and we're going to go ahead to console, and we're going to clear console first, and then we're going to go ahead back to our game and right click on that block. And as you can see here, we have our 1, and then it's 2, and then it's 3, and then for server side it's 1, 2, and 3. So it's exactly the same way because the condition that we had here is basically returning true on the second option, not the first one, the second one, because 2 does equals 2, 1 doesn't equal 2. Numbers could be strings as well, so it's not really testing if the value mathematically is 2, it's just testing if the character is the same. So alright, so that's basically it. Now for your assignment this week, what you need to do, if you choose, is to play around with the print block and print out maybe 5 different values from different tabs. You can put pretty much any condition onto the print block. So for example, you can put variables. If you have a set variable, then you can put it on there. You can go ahead to pretty much any of the data tabs, like for example data, and you can print down different variables based on certain conditions. So you can test if something's in maybe a Minecraft tag and check if the player is holding that when they're actually right clicking. Now when you're running your triggers, remember your dependencies, and that not all triggers, for example, will have support for everything. You'll have to check your trigger. I suggest working with the on block right clicked and making just a dummy block to kind of experiment with. You have a lot of different variety with this trigger for things like X, Y, and Z, which opens up a lot of possibilities. And then there is world, which pretty much all of these do have. So you have a lot of the world blocks that you can work with. It also supports entity, direction, block state, which is the type of block state that it is. And you also have the custom dependencies of hit X, hit Y, and hit Z. So you can play around with the values of all these different types of conditions. Most of the ones that are under world procedures under the data tab will work perfectly fine. You can print all those values out yourself. And then there are a lot of other things, like because there's entity that it supports, a lot of these procedures here will also work themselves as well. So you can try those 2 things, and then under block data, there's a lot of other things that you can test here by printing out the value. So choose 5 of them and print out 5 things with the print block. Again, you can find that under the text, and then it's right under the tab here where it says print. And if you want to print out text, you can also do that directly to console as well. Outside of that, that's all from me for today, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Peace out.